Would you go ahead and introduce yourself for me?
Don Merviker, 84 years old, raised in Richland, Texas, graduated Richland, Texas, went to Sam Houston University, spent 31 years in law enforcement, and I retired 2002. Been in the United States Army, got to go to the Berlin Crisis, got home from that and got invited down to the Cuban Missile Crisis. All that excitement is more than I could stand, so I transferred. Got out of the Army in '64, came home to Richland, went to work at Richland Police Department. Stayed there, '79. Went into construction for a while, came back out of construction, went back into law enforcement, Collin County Sheriff's Department. Retired in 2002.
All right. Are you ready for the first question? Can you tell me about where you grew up and what your family was like?
Grew up in Richardson. We lived on 3.5 acres. Had our daily chores, milking a cow twice a day, gathering eggs. I guess when I was 12, 14 years old, gathered hay for 2 cents a bale in the summertime other than going to school. 2 cents a bale. That's loaded on the truck, take it to wherever barn it had to go to, and put it in the barn for the same 2 cents. It wasn't 2 cents every time picked up. It was 2 cents once a day. If you hauled it 10 times, you still got 2 cents.
Golly.
Yeah. Back in that time, we hauled hay from what is now Richland College. If you're familiar with Richland, where Richland Public Library and Community Center is on Arapahoe Road in Custer, hauled hay from there. Went to Richland High School, and there I went to junior high, and it was with Wade Campbell. Wade Campbell is a direct descendant of a colonel from the Civil War. His great-great-grandfather was a colonel. And they owned both sides of the road from what was Old Highway 75 east to might near to Jupiter. Other than that, just worked every time we got a chance because we didn't have any money. Was on the football team, basketball team, track team. Was not a star, was not no big old, everybody in college, no, nothing like that. I was just there. That's pretty much it. Then went in the Army in 1961. Mainly because there's no work. Back at those days, if they had the draft, and no one would hire you for more than a day for anything. Because you had that draft hanging over your head. They wouldn't hire you. I don't know if they could or not, but didn't, because you never knew if they'd hire you, and then a day, 2-3 days later, a month later, you drafted. So that's the way it worked. And that's the way it was. It was tough.
Mm-hmm.
So that was about it. Went to military and came home. About 4 days after I was out, I was hired by the Richmond Police Department.
Heck yeah. How did your upbringing influence your values?
Because my dad worked hard, and there was 7 of us. Sometimes he had to work double hard. My aunts and uncles and grandpa, everybody worked all the time. None of us nobody had any money, and I guess you could say my background came from hard work. Examples, and the example was you worked for everything. And my dad never told you to do something twice. You did not like the response if you ignored it. It's just kind of the way we was raised. And I had 4 sisters and 2 brothers. Yeah, no one's ever gotten any trouble of any kind. Just wasn't tolerated.
So just a big part of your values growing up was work ethic. That was a very big
I'd
thing.
say that was vital.
All right. Would you like to move on to the next question, or is there anything
Go
else
ahead.
you'd like to add? All right. Who were your biggest influences when you were growing up?
I'd say my dad and my grandfather.
Would you like to explain why?
It's kind of hard to explain, son. They set good, solid, as I see it now. I'm not saying I agreed with everything back then. No, I did not. But Grandpa was he was a Southern Baptist, very stern. Daddy was a God-fearing man, and he didn't tolerate lying or backsliding. It just wasn't tolerated. And I would say that their work ethic and the way they conducted their lives, as I look back, probably made me whatever you want to call me.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
All right. In what ways did facing adversity help you develop your character?
That's tough. There wasn't a whole lot of adversity in our life. It was pretty much get up every day and go to school, do as you're told, come home, do your chores. If you got bored, my dad or my grandpa wanted to find you something to do where you weren't bored. Bored was never part of it. Adversity was, we just didn't have it. We look forward to the weekends because on the weekends, we always had to kill chickens. Me and my brothers and my cousin, because everybody's coming over after church on Sunday, and we always had fried chicken, mashed potatoes, grandma, my aunts, and everybody. But we had an abundance of cream from that cow, so we ate real good.
That sounds amazing.
We ate real good because they'd make excellent. Always ate good, and that was Sunday was a big day for us. A family gathering all the time.
What about during your military experience? Was there any adversity then?
No, Tristan, there wasn't. There wasn't, other than the fact that green as a gourd, and here we get caught up in the Berlin crisis. And after we were there and they pulled us out and sent us to Rear Com Z, we were told that we were cannon fodder. And all we were was to be a delaying action if war broke out. That was in September and October of 1961.
That's gotta be tough to hear.
It was after the fact. They didn't tell you that.
Oh,
But
of
even if
course.
they'd have told us the day we got there, what could we do? We didn't speak the language. We dadgum sure couldn't swim across that ocean, and we didn't know where we were. So,
God, doesn't seem like they told y'all much.
no, they didn't. But there were no heroes. I'm going to say for 3 weeks there was no heroes. Every night we sat around and cried about going home, how we missed our families. There was no heroes, none. There was one thing I learned in the military, though. There was a big difference, even though it was, 100 years after the Civil War. There's a whole lot of difference between North and South. A lot.
Mm-hmm.
I never paid much mind to it, and I wished I had. Because the Southern blacks, if we got in a card game or something like, and everybody played cards, Tristan, everybody, what else you gonna do? You hadn't got any money. And the Southern blacks would tell us, hey, don't get involved with that bunch over there. They said, they're from New York, New Jersey. They're not right. Don't pay no. And they was talking about the other blacks.
Wow.
That was amazing, and I wish I'd have paid more time to that. There was a big difference between North and South blacks, and the rest of us were just ignorant whites, so we didn't like them anyway. So, but we all, we're the same cause, so we got along. And I'm talking about the whites. I ain't talking. Never had any trouble with the blacks. Never. But as I look back now, I wish I'd spent more time, because there was a difference between
The northern and southern.
blacks. Amazing. And I got the impression the southern blacks they were us. We all stuck together pretty close, especially in Europe. We really did.
What was the big difference between the two?
That's what I'm saying. I never
Just-
really knew,
Oh,
and I
okay.
wish I'd have paid more attention to it, because that'll stop. The Southern blacks, they're the ones that said, "Hey, don't get close with that bunch," no, and things like that. I wish I'd have paid more attention.
Mm-hmm.
They said, "Nah, don't do that."
That's very interesting.
It really was, and I wish I'd have spent more time on it. But that back then you weren't. I wasn't, and I don't guess anybody else did either.
Yeah.
Pay a whole lot of attention, really.
Anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
All right. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, was there any time that you'd like to share with me where you faced a major challenge and how your character and your values helped you overcome that challenge?
I don't know, Tristan, how'd you go about that? Because we didn't have walkie-talkies when we worked.
Mm-hmm.
We had a radio in the car, and that was it. And I came up on some bank robbers at the Como Motel in Richland, Texas, at 2:00 in the morning. Oh, I think it was the spring of '68, and chased them. I don't know. There was just now starting to build LBJ, and all the roads are tore up. And they went southbound on the service road, and the bridge was out. And that car they were in went airborne and landed on the other bank of Cottonwood Creek, which runs in front of TI to this day at LBJ and 75. And I guess that I was just, I don't know the answer, but I got out of the car. Keep in mind, we didn't have any walkie-talkies. There's 3 of them. And the foot race was on down that creek. Have you ever heard of pop, bullets flying by that didn't hit you?
I have not personally, but I know what it sounds like.
That'll give you something to think about. That'll give you something to think about. So it makes me wonder now why I ever did it. And the other thing was 1974 at the FBI Academy, Quantico, Virginia, when they gave us a rope and said, tie this around your butt, put this hook around here, and get on the edge of that wall. Got on the edge of that wall, and they said, step off backwards. We said, what? Step off backwards.
Wow.
Then they said, no, stop. We are going to show you what you're fixing to do. That's where I learned rappelling.
That's very interesting.
That's where I learned to rappel. And that is the freest, greatest feeling in the world.
Really?
You can go across buildings for as far as that rope will catch you sideways on a dead run.
Wow.
Yes, it's an experience I think every man that has ever thought about being in combat or being put to the test should know.
That's awesome.
It's it's a great feeling. I even got as high as going off 6 stories.
Wow.
Yeah, it's exuberant. I mean,
the adrenaline rush must be.
Yeah, the only thing you got to know is know how far down it is. Make sure your rope's long enough. That's other than that is remarkable, and that's something.
Heck yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, most was being shot at and jumping off buildings like a fool. That pretty much it.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir.
All right. I'm going to ask you a few last questions. What advice would you give to someone my age?
Whoa. Son, there's only 2 things that matter that really matter, and it's hard for a young man to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to tell somebody else because we all have a mind. You have a mind.
Yes, sir.
And you think things of one way or the other. I don't know a specific topic. But as you get older, the first 2 things is God and the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And your parents.
Yes, sir.
That's vital to how you develop. You can't say, well, the government said, or I saw it on the newspaper. They're liars. They're liars. The government is liars.
Yes, sir.
The government started lying to you 1776. Trust me. I've had to research and backtrack and eat a lot of crow because I thought different. The government's great. No, it's not. No, it's not. And for instance, Tristan, is when the people landed on Plymouth Rock, who'd they meet? Were the French here to meet them? Were the English here to meet them? Who?
Huh.
And we slaughtered them by the thousands, the American Indian.
Mm-hmm.
We took everything they had. A lot of people don't know it, or maybe I'm misjudging. The white man was saved by the Indian the first 2 years because we knew nothing about this harsh foreign land.
They
The
showed us
American
ropes.
Indian got them through the winter by feeding them, housing them, telling them how the weather was and everything. And since then, I've done a little studying. As late as the 50s, the government and the white man has done everything he could to steal everything the Indian had.
Mm-hmm. Gosh.
Study it, son.
I will.
But to answer your question, the Bible, the Constitution, and your parents, that's vital. That is vital. Not inside info. You can listen to anybody all you want. You're going to hear all sorts of things, but it's vital. Your parents are not going to steer you wrong. And I mean that with all my heart.
Yes, sir. Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
All right. Are there any other pieces of wisdom that have helped you throughout your life?
I don't think I've got a whole lot of wisdom. I really don't. Most of what I see between right and wrong, I've learned the hard way. But there's a whole lot of things, and you're under a whole lot of pressure as a young man like yourself, that without your parents and your Bible, son, you've got a hard road to hoe. And I think that's what builds knowledge and wisdom. I truly do. And the farther you can get away from a government school, the better off you're going to be.
Yes, sir.
The colleges in this country, why should it cost $80,000 to go to a college?
It's ridiculous.
And then he'd be a communist instructor. It don't make sense.
Not at all.
And we are stupid and pay it. It's just wrong.
It really is.
But and you look at these young people today, you can't criticize them, really. Because everything is thrown up in front of them with no rules.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you know about money, son?
Quite a bit.
Tell me.
It's supplied by the government. They use it to buy goods, services, things. It's very powerful. Very, very powerful.
I'll give you that. But they'll give you more even if they haven't got it. It's called a printing machine.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to live by rules? And they don't. If Tristan's out of money and his mom and dad out of money, what happens?
We go bankrupt.
The government is bankrupt, morally and financially.
Yes, sir.
But the point I'm trying to make there is, son, that raising children, there's never been a book that I've read or heard about that tells you all about it. Think about that. It don't come with any rules. And what Tristan should do with his money, he hears and he picks up, or he might read a little bit about it.
Mm.
It doesn't say, in God we trust, and here's what you should do with this dollar. Should you go spend it on gambling, drinking, or pay your bills? Does it?
And it does not.
Not even though it should say pay your bills.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't say that. And that's about all the advice I'd have on that is raising children and doing the right thing with your money. I know if you've got an obligation to somebody, you got to take care of that first. So that's pretty simple, I guess, but I'm a simple person, so.
Yes, sir.
Way it is.
Anything else you'd like to add to that?
No, sir.
Any final words before I end the interview?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.